So, okay, we're going to talk about self-management today. I'm going to explain a little bit more after introductions. First, I want to introduce ourselves. I'm Toni, and he's Fabio. He will say something for himself in a minute. We both work in Magento Barcelona office. In case you may know about Magento company, but may not know that there is an office in Barcelona, Spain. So we work in that office, and we've been invited to this conference, which is for us a very nice experience to kind of share some of the things we are doing in Barcelona and get you to know these concepts as well.
So my name is Fabio. I work with Toni in this team that we call the Kaizen team in Barcelona. First, I want to apologize because I'm not 100% today. I've been a bit sick since last night, so forgive me for that. But yeah, we'll do our best.
Big dinner last night.
Big party?
No, just dinner. I wish it was hangover, but not.
I'm also a little bit hoarse, so let's see if we can manage through all of this. Self-management. Yeah. So this talk is called "Climbing the Self-Management Mountain Range." Wow, like long name. I don't know. We're really bad at marketing ourselves, so you won't find this anywhere because we made it up and we didn't publish it anywhere. But we want to improve on this. So we started this blog called kaizentown.com, which only has like a couple of articles now, but maybe if next week a lot of you are following the blog, then we'll feel pressure to publish more stuff, and definitely this presentation. All right, shall we start? So before we go, I'd like to know what kind of audience we have. Are we dealing with, so how many like team managers we have? So maybe like a third or a fourth. How many Scrum Masters, Agile Coach, kind of thing? Almost half, maybe. Developers? Okay. Product owners? Oh, one. The product owner, it's there. Oh, almost. Okay. Astronauts? Huh? Professional climbers, hikers, or something? Yeah? So
we do have a real one.
So we have a real one here?
So everything related to mountain is not 100% proof, so you can correct us if we see any.
Okay, let's go for it then. Maybe you're an expert in mountains, we can correct something. So, first slide. We want to talk about self-management, and the way we want to phrase it or box it somehow is that it's a hard journey with different phases. So we need to climb different mountains, which are harder and harder to climb every time. And if we're talking, so this talk is for people who maybe they're team managers and want to delegate more to the teams. They want the teams to be more self-managed. So we'll try to address what kind of things you can maybe start delegating easily and then maybe delegate more and more. What kind of things a team that is new to self-management can adopt more easily, or they need more experience to get. Also can help for coaches or Scrum Masters to identify these patterns, maybe to see in which point the teams are, depending on how they behave with certain things, and also push them. Also to know what to ask the team for next. So maybe you climb the first mountain, and then when is the right time to climb the next mountain, and what kind of things you can demand this team to accomplish in that second mountain, right? After you get to the top. Is this understood? Does it make sense? So in summary, we'll try to simplify very much the self-management concept, because sometimes we say, and Scrum prescribes like a self-organized team, right? But what does it mean, a self-organized team? What exactly is a self-organized team? Is it they just choose the tasks they're working on, they manage budgets, how much self-organized they are? So there are many degrees. For us, we have 6 degrees of this. So let's see how far we can go. Yeah? We ready for climbing mountains after lunch?
One more thing is that the way all the content in this presentation is based on our experience. So it's not based on scientific publications. It's what we have learned working with self-organized team and why we thought that the order is this and not another. But there's plenty of discussion. Discussion about how do you feel about this order. You will see in a second.
And also, you remind me of something else. So this is definitely not mathematic. There's a lot of complexity that can be into place with specific cases that may change this. Also, we try to make this abstracted as much as we could to address also groups like, obviously we're all thinking of development teams maybe, working software, but we want to abstract a little bit from this and maybe focus on any group of people, which may mean a group of several teams, or it may be only a team, and they may be working in software or something else. So we're going to talk about our personal experience, mostly with software teams, but we work with other kinds of teams, which those things represent themselves as well, even though we may not talk about it often, like a football team, for example. I'm a coach of a football team. There's also a group of people who needs to organize themselves somehow, or in other disciplines as well. So a little bit of everything, but obviously we'll try to give you some concrete examples of even some teams in Kiev we worked with. So we had this question before from some reporter: is there hope for Scrum in Ukraine? I was like, sure. What kind of question is this? So what do you think, guys? Can you manage this? All right, so let's go for it. Those are real mountains. So the hiker, do you recognize the first one? It's a small one. It's a real mountain.
All of them are real. Do you
Those are real
recognize
mountains.
the how do you call the shape of it?
Mont Blanc. That's a good one, but it's not that one.
Gobierno?
Which one?
Gobierno?
Oh.
Yeah. Go ahead. Okay, so that's Mount Fuji. Okay,
Good.
3,776 meters. It's a pretty touristic place. Who's been there?
Uh-huh.
Is it touristic? Is it? Okay, and what kind of people do you find there? Okay, well, experts, non-experts. You find experts, but also non-experts.
Climbers.
Some of them take a bus.
Interesting.
Interesting. When I was there, I've also seen a lot of people taking the bus, so that's pretty easy if you do it that way. But okay, okay. It's a Mount Fuji, and we call it the Mount of Coordination, and you will see why in a second. This is our first stage, or the way we represent it is the first stage of self-organization. This is when the teams start to self-organize in a way, and usually, in our experience at least, usually they start with things like this. So task distribution is one of the first steps they will do in this phase or in this mountain. So I guess many of you have seen teams with their magnets on the tasks. Who has seen that? Magnets with their names or their faces. You've seen that. Yeah, they start making these kind of things. They start assigning tasks to themselves, even putting their name or whatever. May exchange some of them sometimes, right? Then we have space distribution. So I have a nice story about that. When we started with a couple of our teams a couple of years ago, we had to decide where they had to sit. Okay. And so usually the way we were used to do that was to have a manager discuss with another manager over and over and over until they decided who's going to get the window, who's going to get the kitchen. I don't want the kitchen, it's too noisy, things like that, right? So what we did that time, we said, okay, let's let's add some level of self-organization to this process of deciding where they're going to sit. Okay? And we really let the team do that. So the way we did it was just with a simple game, which was to draw the map of the office, have one representative per team join this table, and bring in like a small post-its broken down, like small balls of different colors. Each color was a team. And they had half an hour. And we were time boxing that, and we said, now you self-organize, you decide where you're going to sit on this layout with those little balls. So what do you think happened in that half an hour? Any idea?
Fight?
Interesting. So there was no fight. Believe me, there was no fight. No one died in the attempt. No injuries. It was absolutely safe. And actually people were super happy to do that because they felt like they had this mission. They represented their team, and they had to go to this table and say, okay, I do my best because then my team is going to ask me. But they had some ideas already, like they knew what their team was going to demand from them, and they did it. They just simply did it, like with moving those balls around and coming to an agreement all together in 30 minutes. So it's possible, believe me. So if you want to try something out like that, just ask. But there's more to that. So team identity, what does it mean in our experience at least? Team identity is when we form new teams, and that happened for us a couple of years ago. And these teams need some name, need some logo, need some values. So that's when we help them. We're like Sherpas, you know. Well, maybe in Mount Fuji you don't need a Sherpa. Maybe you need a bus, but we kind of help them climb this mountain. So the first thing we have done with them is to encourage them to not just call themselves like team of service A or team of service B, like finding an identity, finding what makes them unique, okay? And another way to do that is finding their values. So we can help them, we can facilitate them in finding their values, what's important for them, and what makes them angry or sad when it's not present. So those are their values. And in our experience, that worked really well to climb this first mountain, okay? There are more examples, more stories, but I'm just simplifying now. So this is the coordination mountain, okay? And I guess it's time for the next mountain. So, Toni, go ahead.
Yeah, so who can identify next mountain? This is a tricky one. Which one? You keep trying this one. I'm going to save you that. It's not there. That one is not there. Okay, no, we'll reveal it very, very soon. So the point is that those are things that in our experience with very different teams, they were very easy to delegate. And like a manager, most managers, there were quite a few number of managers here, don't feel like it's a big deal like to delegate this. It's not like a very big business driven like decisions. It's just who cares where they sit, right? Sometimes managers really think like, okay, well, we should decide everything for everyone. But those are things that people really appreciate, don't have any impact on the project or management like directly, and they're happy to have this choice, they're happy to solve them themselves. So it's a very easy first step you can start if you're thinking of delegating some parts. Very low cost, high impact kind of thing. Next mountain is, wow, this is a tricky one. Mauna Kea. Who heard of this? Nobody? Yeah. Who said that? Yeah, the expert. There we go. Okay. So this is already above 4,000 meters. So guys, we're now climbing up. We may start feeling a little bit of oxygen, the low income of oxygen, but still safe. Okay. So some of the things we do next, you can observe how there is a degree of, so we go up and then we go down. This is the phase where we call it, well, I'm just going to make it up because we don't call it anything. So we call it like the settlement phase, where you reach the top and then before you move on too fast to the next mountain, it's good to like let it shimmer for a little while so they get the breath back and then ready to climb again. Yeah. Shall we climb this one up? All right, so some of the things that you can expect for teams at this level and are easy next step to do are things like work related. So here we call this mountain the work mountain. I like the example, the analogy Fabio just made about the Sherpa. So I think it's a very nice analogy for the Scrum Master or the coach, but can be the Sherpa. Like it's like carrying all the weight to help the team getting up there, but taking none of the credit. It's like the guy did the 8,000 and the Sherpa was also there, but nobody knows his name. It's like, so it's very, very good analogy for Scrum Master actually. So you feel like some Sherpas, yeah. So some of the things we do the next step, and again, of course, we're thinking development teams, specific software tasks, but we try to not go too much into this specific, but more generic. So depending on the industry, depending on the team, this may be a little bit different. But usually, it's very easy also to delegate as a second step how to execute some tasks. So given the team has a task, before we were saying they can pick up the task they like and perform it, but now we are saying they can also choose the approach to this task. So if we're talking about a software team, this would be the implementation details, maybe what the technical approach they're using, and it's usually easy and very positive for them to feel engaged and finding the right solution for a given task. Yeah. Vacation and time. This is like a very easy win for managers out there. Like managers, just let the team decide when they can go on vacation. Seriously, that's something they can appreciate so much, and they will do it well. They won't take advantage of this. They will feel responsible when they're taking holidays. And there is a team in Kiev we are working with. This guy. So actually, they're trying some of these things. So he just told me yesterday. The team agreed. So as a first step, they're trying to manage the vacation within the team. So they say, okay, whenever somebody wants to go on vacation, they set a rule like maximum half of the team can leave. Half of the team has to be always present. That's their rule. If it works for them. If it doesn't, you will change it, I hope. And so they get together and they just, in a meeting with the whole team, say, okay, I want to go these 2 weeks. So they all can say, okay, no, it's not a good time. We have this release. Or I also want to go on the same day, so maybe only one of us. But it's something that they can responsibly do very easily. And you get away of this really bad feeling of your manager saying, no, you cannot go on holidays, and just thinking this asshole is just not letting me take in my holidays. And now those assholes are your own teammates, and probably you discuss with them, and you have a good relationship with them, so everything works out. So I asked the question, so what if 4 people wants to leave on holidays the same day? He said, the faster one takes it. Maybe not a very perfect method, but if it works for you, that's a way of doing it, right? So these are things that work very well. It's same as time. Usually in software is very privileged in this kind of area. Like, who cares when we do the task, right? Just need to do the task, and it's very easy to delegate to the team. You guys figure out when you work best. You work best in the afternoon, you work best in the morning, you want to work from home one day or the other, or they just make each other, they agree with each other, they maybe decide that at least they all need to be there for the stand-up, or they need to be there at certain times to working together, but it's something very easy to delegate, and the amount of freedom they feel and the benefit that brings for the team is huge compared to the small doubt that the manager may have that they take advantage of this system. So this is something I encourage you to try as a second step. And something very important for us is feedback. In Agile world, it's very important to continuously get feedback. We have another expertise track later where we can keep talking about self-management, but we will also bring to the table something about feedback. So we can talk more about this, but pretty much we classify feedback as coffee, because coffee to be good needs to wake you up, right? So this feedback that wakes you up is what we call strong coffee. Decaf feedback is feedback that, okay, it's okay, but it's not waking me up, right? So at this level, we can start with decaf feedback, and we measure this level in terms of emotional investment in the exercise. So how hard is to give feedback in one way or another. We'll explain later in the expertise track exactly how we see this. But an example of decaf feedback could be an online survey, anonymous online survey. Give me feedback, right? So you write something, nobody's looking at your face, nobody knows your name, You can just say whatever is like easy to do. Is this understood, what I'm trying to say? Okay. How are we doing with oxygen, breath? We'll keep climbing? You ready for next level? We're already above 4,000 meters.
So we're approaching 5,000, almost.
So he's very passionate, feels very passionate to the next mountain. Which is the...
I think you know.
Which one is the next mountain? Somebody said this before. Almost. Huh? We're going to have a problem here.
Okay. We need to talk. So, where I come from, we call this Monte Bianco. I'm really sorry. But it's the same, okay? So the next one is Monte Bianco, which is Mont Blanc, but in Italy we call it like that. Okay, so we're approaching 5,000 already. And weather conditions start to be really extreme, and usually you don't find a lot of tourists there. You don't find buses there. Okay, it's a hard one. Okay, and we call it the group mountain. Okay, and why so? Because this is when, in our experience, teams start to work on their group. Okay, and starting making changes that affect the group heavily, like processes. Okay, so what I said before, what Toni explained before, was about making execution decisions. So if a team has a task, how they approach that task technically. But this time we're talking about processes. So think about teams that need to change their own Scrum process, for instance. Teams that can decide their sprint length, or decide that maybe Scrum is not the right approach for them. Okay. What else? Think about teams that need to decide their own meetings. Okay. Not just the Scrum meeting, but more meetings. Okay. So in our experience, it comes a point where these teams start to organize their own meetings, start to organize the way they interact. One example, nice story I have about this. It was a team that they, in retrospectives, over and over, they found that they had too many interruptions, and you may have heard this before, I guess. So too many interruptions, and so their Scrum process didn't allow for any solution to this. So they stopped after one retrospectives and said, how can we tackle this? And they came up with a solution that they call yoga. It's their solution, so they should be the owners of this. They call it yoga because they basically every Wednesday, I guess, they have a room reserved for them. They reserve the room. They go to a room, lock the door, and just start working on their sprint. So half day on Wednesday, no one can interrupt them. And this is their decision. They found this after a retrospective, and it works for them. Maybe it wouldn't work for me, but for them it's really working well. So they have half a day at the beginning of a sprint where they can really start attacking the sprint and being productive at the very beginning of the sprint. So the sprint is actually working smoothly for them after this. Okay, this is one story. Then membership is another thing we have experienced in this mountain. So membership for us, what it means is think about being part of a team versus being part of another team. Okay, so being part of a team is usually I say given, but what if these teams in a specific moment they need extra help, or they need to hire someone, or they need to someone to join them temporarily. Okay, so in our experience, this has worked really well. We tried something called the Erasmus. Has anyone been in Erasmus program or heard about it? So team members can go and make an Erasmus exchange with another team. Okay, learn what they were working on, their part of the platform, and after time, go back to the team. Okay? Just an example, okay, about how the group self-organizes. And then we have the regular feedback. So Toni was explaining how we classify feedback as coffee. So regular will be the second and mid level in our classification. And regular feedback is usually harder than the bigger feedback. So if you think about the emotional investment of giving feedback, a regular feedback would be, for instance, when teams need to talk to each other face to face. That's actually very much harder than anonymous feedback. And so, in our experience, some teams started with anonymous one, but over time, then they moved to regular feedback. And then you will see later more feedback. But regular feedback is super powerful, and this when the group starts to take in knowledge about themselves. All right, so next mountain for you.
It's funny, the yoga thing is really funny because sometimes people are on the office, not everybody is aware of this. It's like, where are these guys? No, they're in yoga. It's like, what? Like, no, it's just that you can't talk to them. Okay, I'll wait. But it's like, it's funny to talk about this. Okay, so who's still like with some energy? You need some protein bar, some snack. Managers still want to keep climbing? The team managers are still feel safe still? Okay, even with the membership thing? Like the team decides maybe one team member should go to another team? Still there? Okay. Now, keep in mind that we're also abstracting this. Maybe this also falls in a model of a bigger group with maybe many teams inside. So we're not just focusing specifically on one team. It could be a group of people with different structure. Okay, next. What's this? Wow, who said that? Extra points. The Kilimanjaro, almost reaching 6,000 meters. We call this the governance mountain. This gets more importance, especially when working with groups of teams. But it can happen also for a team. But this is where the point that maybe for a team is a little bit easier to reach this point. For a group is harder. So we just put it right there. But this is more or less what we mean by this. Governance is that when you start getting a lot of complex situations, the manager is delegating more and more. And you may need some mechanisms to kind of govern the group, right? So some of the things we've seen working very well is as Sherpas. This is very important work for Sherpas is the work on accountability. Accountability is the fact that if a teammate lets you down, you're supposed to do something. You can go and say, man, what are you doing? You are making me... You're slowing me down. You are going to make us fail the sprint. So you are demanding this commitment from one another, the peers, right? And you need certain maturity. You need some experience climbing. It's nice boots and some sticks, walking sticks, to kind of make use of this before it's counterproductive. If you go to Kilimanjaro, the first mountain you ever climb, you're going to have a hard time. Probably you're going to get injured and all of this. So these are things that work when you already have some experience, because you need to, in a healthy way, tell your teammate, man, stop doing this, or what are you doing this? You're supposed to do this. Don't let me down. Don't let the team down. So it takes some maturity to do this, right? At this point, and see if the manager is still with us, you can give some budgets to the team to manage. How does that sound? They're starting to look down and okay. So, but they're sorry, what?
Managers will do strong feedback after you.
A strong feedback, okay.
Yeah. I'm waiting as a question.
Okay. So where were we? Budget, yeah. But actually, it turns out there are some very easy budgets that you can delegate to the team. And really, it's all beneficial. There's nothing to be afraid of. You can give the team a budget to decide their own team building activities, for example. Does that sound too bad? No? If you have the budget. Not all companies may have this budget, but if you have it, you can just say to the team, you have this money, you can do whatever you want with it. They go play golf, they go do bowling or escape rooms or whatever.
This is a big difference to give money for just team building or to give money to manage the budget of the project.
Some budgets. I'm talking about some budgets. I'm starting with the easy budgets.
So for team building, going to training.
This is one example of an easy budget you can delegate. Another example, which may be a little bit harder, is training budget. You can give them a budget for training. They can spend whatever they want within the budget to go to conference, to take some training. What managers are making faces now, or is okay? I mean, when you train them, over time, and they reach here, they usually are in a very trust environment where they can choose the training that is going to help them keep climbing, right? Keep delivering. And they know they're already doing a lot of feedback. They know each other very well. They know what they need to learn. They need where they need to improve. So it usually works very well. We have this in our office. We give all the budget to the development teams. Actually, to all the development teams. The training budget I'm talking about. But we have some examples with other budgets as well. So we give the budget to the whole 6 Scrum teams, for example, and they decided to have like a committee or like one representative, and then they just keep count of the budget, and whenever somebody wants training, I would like to do this training. Okay, there's still budget, okay, take it. Or you already went to 10 training, okay, maybe some other guy wants to go. But they coordinate themselves, nobody is taking part of this, and they're extremely happy and engaged into, what they're doing. So this is another example. We have other teams, which actually they're not development teams. They are they're more into business analysis, and we provide more business budgets to them to kind of make the call whenever they need to pay this. For example, buying licenses for a tool they need. You can slowly approach to more important decisions, but again, you need to start low, and then they start having consciousness about what's spending money, with some easy things. It's possible. We've seen it done.
Will you do it for Ukrainian people?
Sure. If we went through all of this first, yes, definitely. You need some maybe strong Sherpas to carry all the weight. And then we have strong feedback. So a strong coffee. There's a lot of caffeine. It's gonna kick you in the face. You're gonna wake up right away. And this is feedback that is emotionally very exhausting. It's usually there are different dimensions. We'll talk about them later. But usually maybe face to face, maybe critique, like looking for really things that somebody needs to improve. It may be public, like everybody's gonna see or hear to this feedback, so the exposure is high. And you can make it even harder when you introduce some weights or quantities, when you can link it, you can measure it somehow. That's even more difficult to do, because then potentially you can generate some sort of competition or some sort of bad feelings about people who have worse feedback that you can measure that is half of the feedback of another guy, stuff like this. But when you are such a professional climber, it's very useful, because then you can identify, by measuring the feedback that people get from team members, for example, you can identify gaps of people who are very considered, people who are not very well considered, huge gaps in the team. They should usually be balanced. So if you see any signs of not being balanced, it's something you need to address. And I have examples here. We had, in one team, we had external contractor. He wasn't full-time employee, he was external. And we were renewing the contract every 3 months, so he had the 3 months. And we were doing this kind of exercise. Strong feedback, face-to-face. At this point, we were giving poker chips. So we gave a fixed amount of poker chips to each team member, let's say 20 poker chips for everyone. And there are maybe 4 people in the team. And then we go in rounds, face to face. Everybody has the 20 poker chips and is to distribute the chips across the team members, giving reasons why, and is giving how much money to each one of them. Okay? So this is a very, very emotional, strong, exhausting kind of exercise when I say I'm going to give you 3 because you were distracted, you were not really helping the team this time because of this, because of that. I'm going to give you 25 because you really carried the weight of this sprint. I'm going to give you this much, this much, this much. It takes a lot of previous feedback exercises and a lot of trust to do this efficiently. But at the end, you're going to end up with maybe 20 candies, maybe 15, maybe 25, right? The perception of all your teammates. And you can clearly see, okay, who's got 25, who's got 10, who's got 15. So you need to be in an environment where there's high trust and nobody's going to feel like, pointed or... So we had this case with a team, and there was this guy who was getting below average chips. We actually call it candies. This is another long story. So you could see, then we would do the exercise or do the kind of the counting the chips and say, okay, this guy got 25, this guy got 13, this guy. What do you see there? Any reactions to this? And the guy would say, why? I don't know why I got so little. Or I don't see why this guy had. There's some observations that can be discussed in the group. And then with this particular guy, then we were saying, we need more from you. We're expecting you to be more focused, to be more whatever, right? This was a real case. And then we did this exercise several times. There was the time where this wasn't improving. And I was the Sherpa of this thing. So I was next to them climbing, they were talking. And I was hearing like they were thinking of not renewing the contract next time, right? I was like, okay, we need to maybe do something, make him aware of this, because it may be over for him. So we came up with another idea, which is, who's seen How I Met Your Mother? Nobody? How I Met Your Mother? Show? You know the intervention thing? When do the intervention? So an intervention usually is maybe a family member or a very good friend is maybe going the wrong path, and all of the friends agree that they should do something. So they ambush him in a room maybe and say, this is an intervention, we need to tell you something, you need to change your behavior. They're all in front of him and the guy feels like, oh, okay. So we did this with this guy. Like, if you don't change, we're not going to renew the contract. As clear as this. Wow, I was like, fuck. So I'm very happy with this story because this guy completely changed his behavior. And as soon as we have an open position, we offered full time, and now he's like very well considered, very well integrated in the team. He maybe just was having a first few bad months or something, or I don't know, or this caffeine woke him up, right? So this is very important. Good. How are we doing?
Good.
Still
Good.
Manager still with us?
Sherpas?
Or are they taking the helicopter to just fly away?
Yeah, it's becoming harder and harder. Next one is mountain. Who recognizes that? you should.
It was there at some point when we removed it. It was too high. K2 was too high.
No?
Yeah.
Who said that?
Genius.
You're right.
Okay.
That's it. 6,000, almost 7,000. So these are mountains where people start to, I don't want to say the word dive. some people doesn't make it to the top. Maybe you walk into the top and you find somewhere that, okay, let's move on. And it's really sometimes it's about surviving, If a group of 2 or 3 goes to this mountain, and maybe one of them is really in a bad shape and won't make it, the others need to survive, they need to go ahead, so they will probably lead in there. So it's a hard mountain, okay? And we call it the mountain of compensation, okay? So there are a few things about appraisal and compensation that we have seen working, others that didn't work. But the key thing is, if your team has gone through decaf feedback, regular feedback, strong feedback, and they're mature enough, the clear or really direct usage of that wouldn't it be for them to appraise to do their appraisal, or to recognize to one another? No? Who thinks that's crazy?
Explain, Alina, what we're trying to do here.
Huh?
So explain, Alina, we got the team and gave them the promotions budget.
Yeah, going back to the promotion, to the budgets we were talking before. So let's make a couple of examples that we have seen working in real life, okay? So one example was something we tried a few years ago, which we didn't have a fancy name. We just took this budget for the salary increase, and because we had mature teams, mature enough in tech at least, not in the whole company, but in tech, we said, so this is the budget for salary increase. It turns out that if you divide it by the number of people, everyone would get 1,000, for instance. But those 1,000 are not for you. Those 1,000 are for you to give to someone else. Okay? So using feedback and using what they believe others deserve after having worked together. Okay, so imagine you're in a team, or actually imagine you're all the tech teams, or in our case the tech teams, imagine many teams, there's a budget and each one of you have 1,000 to give away. How would you feel? Now you have to raise someone else's salary. What would you do? What criteria would you use? Any idea?
Because of how many people you have in the team, that's the first. The second, it depends how much courage you have, not to distribute equally between the team members, but to give exactly, I mean,
She wants to go down. She wants.
What? Go back. It's too cold in there. Okay, you can do many things. There's not a right answer. And by the way, we did this exercise with these teams. We asked them to give feedback about the process, and because we wanted to make it better the next time. So of course there is not right solution or wrong solution. Okay, so the way we did it, again, no one got injured. Okay, no one died. There was no bloodbath. They did it. They survived. Okay, and looking then we share some data about this. Some in this case we share some anonymous data, some aggregated data. Okay, so things like how many people gave money to one person, to more than one person, and so on, like aggregated, and share with everyone. Okay, and it turns out it was a pretty fair distribution. Okay. There were not really weird things. Okay, so the teams took the responsibility to do that, and then we had retrospective. We talked a lot about this process. Some people were pissed off. Some people were happy. Some people complained. This is a, how do you call that?
Popularity contest.
Popularity contest. This is the word you get when you do these kind of things a lot. And in a certain way, you could see it like that. But the principle behind this is who knows better how you work than the ones who work with you. So if the ones who work with you believe you're doing a great job, the chances are that you're doing a great job. I see a face saying, no.
She's down.
Okay. Well, I can tell you, in this, again, it depends always on where the team stands in terms of maturity. So if we try these kind of things here, chances are that that's gonna be a mess. Okay, but if you have teams that have gone through many things like this, you can see good things happening. I'm happy to answer questions. Okay, so that's one example of things we did. But there's another one that on the top of my head now, which is things like we wanted to move away from knowing exactly the quantities, because in our retrospectives people say, no, we don't like this. Knowing how to split money, having the money symbol in front of the quantity, it's just distracting, is too hard. Okay, we said, let's try something slightly different. So we tried with this approach that we call the Star Awards, which means you can, over the year, you can award people who are doing a great job by giving them a symbolic star. and you have only 3 stars, or limited number of stars during the year. Okay, so you really need to give them when people deserve them. You just don't want to give them to anyone who's helping you with taking you a coffee. That wouldn't work. But you really need to think about who's doing a great job, and also think about who's embodying the company values, because we tie that also to company values. We tried this thing, and who's really living up to those values. So if someone is really living up to those values, then you can award them with a star. And what happens at the end of the year, we say, okay, so now some people have 1 star, some people have many, and we try to help them to see how that would impact in their salary increase. And it actually becomes, in a way, a salary increase. There's more to that, but in a way, a big part of the salary increase is also mapped on the number of stars that someone could receive. Okay? How does it feel? Crazy?
I think that depends a lot on also cultural psychology and the approach, how you approach your neighbor and something
Sure.
around.
Yeah.
By the way, you don't need to claim anything. We did it this way, but you don't need to. Just sharing what we've done. This is not for everyone. This is not necessary at all. It's just a way of working. So just make that clear.
So those are 2 stories that we have seen working, and it tells you what happens when you walk all these paths until you get to the appraisal, which is a very complex topic, and people tend to get very, very nervous when we get there. So that's when you see some people don't make it to the top, and that's why we make this metaphor. But yeah, there's things you can try if you wish to. Next mountain.
There's one more. This is the easy one. Which one is this? Okay, this is the easy one. But what could be even harder than this? You think? In a self? Huh?
No idea.
No idea. There we go. So this mountain we call determination mountain, and it has a couple of interesting concepts. One is expelling team members. It takes a lot of climbing before you can do that, right? In a self-organized model, I'm saying, there's no boss, there's no manager to fire anybody. And this is, I'm going to tell you a real case. So all of this, we're not just theorizing about it, we experienced all of this. And I'm going to tell you a case that we had around this. So we were doing the same kind of candies, poker chips feedback. And then we had a case where someone in the team was getting like 3 poker chips when everyone else was getting like 15, 18 consistently. So the guy would take 2 points or 2 candies, we call it, 2 candies, 3 candies, when the rest were taking 12, 15. A lot of feedback sessions, same results, a lot of feedback sessions, same result, intervention, same results. So we got to a point where this guy just didn't work. So the team came to the Sherpas. It's like, we can't work with this guy. I was like, well, who am I? I'm just carrying the bags. I don't know. You figure it out. What do you want? So the team decided to kick him out of the team. So they did a session and said, man, we've been through this for long enough. You're not changing. From next Monday, you're not part of this team. We all agree on this. That's it. And they did this. They did this, and the guy was like, well, he was upset, obviously. But like, okay, fuck it then I need to like for another team or something. This is a real case. We're not making this up, right? So then the guy had to just go around, find different projects, find another team, right? But to reach this point of maturity, you need to be like for 3 years. It took us 3 years, less than 3 years, of climbing, continue all the time. A lot of Sherpas also to carry all the bags, yeah? But this is a real case. And the dissolution is another interesting concept. I didn't really see this in professional work, but I'm sure it happened. And I like to think about this like kind of for thinking about something. This is when the team itself is mature enough and is in a position to recognize that maybe this team doesn't make sense anymore. This team is over.
Sorry, what doesn't make sense anymore?
Maybe the team just we should just terminate this team. Maybe we should just join other teams. Maybe this team is not doing what it's supposed to do. Maybe this team lost the project. Maybe this team, we're really happy. We've been 10 years working together. We love each other, everything, but it's just, there's no reason to continue with this team. And this takes a lot of courage and a lot of maturity to recognize this. Say, this team is over. So I didn't experience this personally in professional life. Maybe in sports and other cases, but it's not the same. And this is what we call the termination. This is 8,800 super professional climbers when we do this. Oxygen. So this is a little bit the summary of everything. So the summary of this, the main ideas of this is that definitely don't try to climb Everest mountain first day. You're gonna die. You're gonna lose all your toes. Do you know that? You're gonna lose all your toes. They're gonna freeze. You're gonna die. So you need to very careful and very easily. Please just take the bus up to Fuji mountain. Just take the bus. Just see how it looks. Okay, it's fun. With the camera. Okay, fine. Right? You don't even need the gear or anything. But at least you see how the mountain is. Okay, we made it up here. Okay, it's fine. We can breathe. Okay, the next, and carefully over time, dedicate a lot of coaching time with these teams. These teams will suffer. They will suffer through this. They will be tired. They have a blister. They need some plaster. They're thirsty. Come on, give me some water. I need some drink. You need to be with them all the time. And what's very interesting, and I really like the analogy, is that the higher you go, the harder the conditions are. You're more tired. Weather conditions. It's cold, oxygen, snow. And when these situations happen, it's very human to look for survival instinct. You just want to save yourself. The team is very nice and friendly, and I have a lot of fun with them, ha ha ha. But now I'm about to die, and I'm going to save myself. So it takes a lot of maturity and a lot of unity in the team to kind of try to save everyone. Okay, how can we work together to not ending up eating each other or something? Yeah? So this is very important. So think about this, and for whoever is interested in start climbing, you don't need to. Who needs this? You can stay home and watch Netflix all day. Who needs to go up to the mountain? If you really want to go up to the mountain, just think about everything we shared, and maybe start with easy things. See how the team is appreciating this delegation, some small things. Start taking ownership. Start feeling them deciding things together. And then more and more progress. And of course, definitely everything is different, every country is different, every history of everything is different, so it's not a recipe that you need to follow blindly, but just to think about possible next steps.
Yeah, and one more thing. This also applies to interaction between teams. So, for instance, one team can be very high on this scale, but a group of teams, so an organization, may be very at the lower stage, so not mature enough to try these kind of things across teams. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, this is a very interesting concept. We have different teams, so not all of the teams are here. So some teams are here, some teams are here, and the group of teams as a group, they may be, actually I think they are somewhere here, or well, here, they're here. So right now they're like writing a constitution for the group to work better. We're playing with the appraisal process for the whole group. So they have different levels of these different groups. Okay?